After I caught my wife with my own brother, everyone in the family pressured me to step aside. So I did. I accepted the betrayal with a smile, took my half of the assets, and walked away from that life forever. Later, I found 3 lost children. Under my guidance, they grew into remarkable people. One became a titan in the business world, another a celebrity influencer with a massive following, and the third a brilliant academic, sought after by the nation's top research labs. That winter, my biological daughter tracked me down in the quiet country town where I had settled. She found me lounging on a patio chair, letting the weak winter sun warm me, and sneered. "If Grandma and Grandpa weren't so sentimental, I wouldn't have bothered dragging you out to this dump for the holidays," she said, casting a disdainful look around my modest, unfinished yard. "After you left, Laura took over Aura Corp, Isaac turned into a mega-influencer with millions of fans, and I got into Stanford. Things have never been better." She fixed me with a triumphant glare. "So you threw us away for a handful of money. Do you regret it now?"
Fuck them kids. Fuck the kids? Yeah.
Serena's expression was smug, clearly expecting me to collapse with remorse. I met her gaze and simply nodded, calm and measured. "Stanford's a fine school," I replied. Implicitly, it acknowledged that she and Talia were now alumni, but of course, Talia's brilliance was in a league of its own. My lack of dramatics seemed to frustrate her. A brief flash of irritation crossed her face before she masked it with her usual scornful smile. "The new year is approaching. Grandpa turns 80. Grandma insisted I come get you because she's worried," she said with a sigh. "Dad, you're an adult. It's time to show some consideration." I paused, reflecting. My parents were elderly, and despite our past bitterness, I owed them my respect. Serena misread my quiet thoughtfulness for weakness. Her eyes swept over my small, unfinished house, dripping with disdain. "Looks like life hasn't been kind to you since you abandoned us," she sneered, then added, her tone falsely gracious, "Don't worry, legally you're still our father. We'll support you when you're too old to work. But let's be clear, Grandma might still see you as her son, but in our hearts, Uncle Hugo has always been our real dad." I studied her carefully. That same cold disdain had been there all those years ago. I remembered her as a little girl, standing at the top of the stairs, her tiny frame filled with surprising strength. She had shoved me, fevered and weak, down the staircase. "You're not my daddy. Uncle Hugo is my daddy," she had cried. "Mommy and Daddy should be together. Don't hurt my dad, you bad man." Behind her, Hugo had worn a triumphant grin. That shove had broken my leg. Fever and shock kept me unconscious in the hospital for 3 days. When I awoke, everyone sided with Hugo, accusing me of bullying him. "Brother, you can hit me, curse me, or slander me, I'll endure it," Hugo had said, tears in his eyes. "But don't use your own daughter in your schemes." "I barely touched him," 7-year-old Serena had sobbed, shaking. "Daddy fell on his own." I stared at her in disbelief. "Serena, why are you lying?" She only cried harder. "I'm not lying. You're lying. You were going to hit Uncle Hugo." Hugo scooped her up protectively, dabbing at her tears. Bianca, my wife, stood silently, face dark with fury. "She's only 7, Victor. Can a child that age lie? How much strength could she even have? How petty can a man be? And remember," Bianca spat venomously, "she is your daughter." Seeing Serena now, the little girl who had once sided with my betrayer, my chest ached like an empty wasteland. Yes, she was my daughter. The child I had loved and protected had been turned into a weapon in someone else's hands, and the pain cut deep. All I felt was a heavy, weary disappointment. A dry, almost bitter smile tugged at my lips. "Don't worry. Your mother and I are long divorced. I'll be gone soon after the holidays," I said softly. Before leaving, I sent a quick message to the group chat I shared with my real children. "This year, we'll celebrate New Year's at Grandma's." The replies came immediately. Got it. A warmth spread through me. With these children by my side, I had never once felt alone in all these years. The next day, I packed a small bag and drove with Serena back to the family home. Everything looked just as I remembered, and for a brief moment, I was lost in the past. Inside, I immediately spotted the man Serena now called Dad, my ex-wife's husband, my own brother, Hugo. Dressed in a sharp suit and gold-rimmed glasses, he moved gracefully through the crowd, exuding a cultivated charm. When he saw me, a warm, welcoming smile spread across his face. "Brother, it's been too long. We were so worried. It's Dad's 80th today. Glad you could make it. It's cold outside. Come in and have some tea. The relatives nearby whispered, curious and judgmental. I was the eldest son who had vanished, leaving my family behind. I understood the game Hugo was playing, but I had no interest in playing along. Serena, however, darted past me, bounding toward him with a loud, insistent voice. Dad, look at all the gifts I brought. See this watch. You're a wonderful daughter. This is beautiful, Hugo said, eyes flicking to me with a faint, triumphant glint. It was just my scholarship money. But of course, a daughter should spoil her father a little, she replied cheerfully. I watched the scene quietly, sipping my tea. She was a good child. She simply had the wrong father. Victor, my son. My mother rushed from an inner room, tears welling in her eyes. You've suffered so much all these years. You've grown thin. It's so good to see you. Her expression was sincere, showing the guilt they had carried all this time. When the family faced bankruptcy and my father's investments failed, I had left school to work, sending money home to keep them afloat while funding Hugo's education. Later, I used my savings to reclaim the family home so they could retire comfortably. When Hugo returned from studying abroad, I secured him a position at Aura Corp while I stayed home to raise the children. A bitter smile crossed my lips. What had it all been for? They had always preferred Hugo, the polished, educated son who matched their social ideals. I was the house husband, the invisible support. As Aura Corp flourished, it was Hugo who appeared to be the rightful heir. Bianca paraded him at galas and events. I built the company from the ground up. I raised the children. I sacrificed my own education for him. And yet, their love, loyalty, and admiration belonged entirely to him. My wife, my partner, carried on an affair with my brother, and even my children had turned their allegiance away from me. Dad, Uncle Hugo is one of us now. Educated abroad, he's better suited to be with Mom, Lara had once said. Appearances matter in our world, Isaac had added. Uncle Hugo understands me. He's my real parent, Serena had declared without hesitation. It was then that the truth struck me. My wife's heart belonged to my brother, and the children I had raised were no longer mine. The night I uncovered their affair, my parents called me for a long, uncomfortable conversation. Your brother has always been stubborn. Now he's back from studying abroad, and our family name carries weight again. We can't leave him unmarried forever, my mother said. We're family. He'll take care of the children, my father added. Just say you and Bianca divorced long ago. We'll provide you with a new home, move out for a while, avoid the gossip, they suggested. Then my father's words cut sharper than any blade. Victor, just hand your position over to your brother. Watching this grotesque theater unfold, I signed the divorce papers without argument. I collected my portion of the assets and walked out of that house, and that life, without looking back. I relocated to the countryside and purchased a small, simple home. Life became quiet. I spent my days tending flowers and cultivating a vegetable garden. My biological children, enraged that I had taken the money, despised me. In their eyes, I was a cruel man who had used a woman to climb, then abandoned my family for cash. They refused to call me father. It didn't matter. Over the years, I discovered 3 new children. The first, Claire, had run away from a nearby village when her parents tried to sell her to a local drunk for a pittance. I paid them double and gave her a fresh start. She was beautiful, quick-witted, and eager to learn. The second, Leo, was a boy beaten nearly to death for stealing a loaf of bread. I covered his medical bills, brought him home, fed him, and clothed him. A spark of hope lit his once dark eyes. Finally, there was Talia. Claire and Leo had found her at a bus station, abandoned, staring at a departing bus with a face full of quiet, heart-wrenching loss. I clenched my nearly empty wallet and said, "Bring her home." 4 years, these children became my family, the ones who stayed by my side. Now that you're back, you should stay, my mother said, her voice thick with emotion. You've endured so much, my child. He's the one who never wanted us, Serena scoffed. Mom said she would have cared for him. I guess he finally realized he's useless out in the world. I felt a flash of cold contempt. I had raised her with care, watched over her fragile health, been at her side through every difficulty. Yet she despised my attentiveness, my rules. She preferred Hugo, who let her do whatever she pleased. Before I could reply, my father entered with Bianca and the others, laughing and talking. "Grandma, Grandpa," Isaac cried, hugging our mother. Then he saw me. His smile froze, replaced by disgust. What are you still doing here? Dad, what are you trying to do? Lara demanded, stepping in front of Hugo as if shielding him. I asked him to return. My mother snapped before I could respond. Honestly, bringing him back for New Year's, such bad luck, Serena muttered. My father and Bianca both frowned. Hugo stepped forward, assuming the gracious host persona. My brother rarely comes home. Guests whispered among themselves. The younger son is so reasonable. Studied abroad, definitely more sophisticated. What kind of father abandons his own children? Grandpa, we brought gifts for you, Isaac said brightly. The assistant arranged to have them delivered later. My father's face brightened. I hear the grandchildren of this family are all so accomplished. The eldest daughter runs Aura Corp, the son has millions of followers, and the youngest studies at Stanford, someone added. That Bianca really married well. And to think, her first husband threw it all away for a little money. The guest's wife nudged him to silence, but the words had already landed. My father's expression darkened, and his anger turned toward me. Why did you come back? We haven't heard from you in over a decade. Now that your life is a mess, you suddenly appear. He glanced behind me. You came alone? You have 3 other grandchildren, I said calmly. They're busy with work. They'll join later. When did you get married? Why didn't I know? Bianca demanded, her expression a strange mix of shock and something unreadable. So you're saying they're already working? All this time, you've had kids behind my back. You shameless man, my father bellowed, striking his cane against the floor. Before he could continue, a sharply dressed man appeared at the doorway. His presence commanded immediate attention, and the room fell silent. Isn't that the courier company for ultra-luxury items? Someone whispered. They only handle deliveries over $1 million. Even the shipping fees are astronomical. Excuse me, the man said politely. Who is Mr. Victor Song? These are New Year's gifts from your 3 children. Please sign here. Hugo's face lit up as he stepped forward. How thoughtful of Victor's children. Just look at the courier. These gifts must be extremely expensive. He reached for the clipboard, but the courier held up a hand firmly. The recipient is listed as Mr. Victor Song. I'm afraid we cannot allow anyone else to sign. Serena's jaw dropped as she stepped closer, trying to process the situation. Who did you say the recipient is? When she saw the names on the shipping manifest, she visibly relaxed. There must be a mistake. The gifts are for my father. The Clarity Group. Lionheart Media. Stanford Research Division. Her sister's company, her brother's investment firm, her own academic department. It was a holiday, her grandfather's birthday, and naturally, the gifts were intended for their family. With the property still in my name, the system had automatically filled it. She was certain it was just a clerical error. I watched her, a flicker of pity passing through me. Ma'am, the courier said, these items are extremely valuable. We can only release them to the person listed as the recipient. I stepped forward, smiled, showed my ID, and signed. The courier bowed politely and departed, relieved. His company didn't make mistakes, especially not when these gifts came from my 3 children. Hugo, however, shoved me aside and tore open the packages, holding them up for everyone to see. How considerate of the children, to prepare such magnificent gifts for us. Inside were exquisite jewels, rare vintage wines, and priceless medical supplements. This is... Lara and Isaac exchanged confused glances. These weren't the gifts they had arranged. But the items were far too luxurious for someone like me, a high school dropout, to have obtained. It had to be an error. Quickly, they tried to claim the credit, ignoring the courier's instructions, and signed labels as if it were their doing. A shared look of disgust passed between them. They could hardly believe they had once lived under my roof. Guests showered Hugo with praise. Yes, we're so proud of him. See? Hugo is the respectable one. Victor came back empty-handed. It's the holidays. Even the poor should show some decorum. The eldest son really is a disgrace. Hugo smirked, stepping toward me. Brother, I know life has been hard for you. But as the younger generation, we have to set a good example, right? Coming home empty-handed isn't impressive. Even if your children are grown, you should show some respect to mom and dad. He covered his mouth, eyes crinkling in mock sympathy. Why don't you kneel and wish them a happy new year? It would brighten the room. Hugo, did you forget who actually signed for these deliveries? I said, my voice low and dangerous. Are you really certain they belong to you? Mom, Dad, I said, turning to my parents, These gifts came from your other 3 grandchildren. Serena, Laura, and Isaac froze, frowning. Victor, you're shameless. Serena shrieked. Everyone knows those supplements came from the Stanford Research Division. They're impossible to obtain. And those jewels are from Lionheart Media, Isaac added. Clearly a gift from Leo himself. AuraCorp's newest partner is the Clarity Group, Laura snapped. Dad, don't invent stories. You'll offend some very important people. Brother, I've always known you envied me, Hugo said, his eyes glimmering with fake tears. But that doesn't give you the right to take what isn't yours. He glanced at Bianca. She stepped in front of him, her gaze icy. Victor, don't overstep, she warned. Look around. Stop causing a scene. Kneel, apologize, and say something appropriate for the occasion. Let it go. We're family. My mother tried to intervene, sensing the situation teetering on the edge. She knew me better than anyone. Mom, you always take his side. This is Dad's 80th birthday. Serena cut her off. My mother hesitated, then turned away. Victor, my father thundered, fully incensed now, if you don't kneel and apologize to Hugo immediately, you can stop calling yourself a song. The room was a theater of disdain. This failure of a son, this divorced man, this disgrace, was he trying to ruin his father's birthday too? Bianca's eyes narrowed. I wasn't groveling. I wasn't trembling. I stood straighter than I ever had, stronger than ever. She hated it. I was supposed to be crushed beneath her, broken and humiliated, but leaving her had made me resilient. She gave her assistant a subtle nod. Hugo noticed. The message was clear: humiliate the ex-husband and earn a reward. But when the man lunged toward me, I warned him, don't touch me, and sidestepped. Laura and Isaac frowned but did nothing. Then, from behind, Serena kicked me in the back, driving me to my knees. The assistant grabbed my arms, ready to slam me to the floor. I'd like to see you touch my father, a furious voice thundered from the doorway. Everyone turned. Claire and Talia stood there, faces blazing with anger. Talia kicked the assistant aside with startling force and helped me to my feet. Dad, are you all right? Claire asked, her voice low and deadly with contained fury. Leo got held up by paparazzi, but he'll be here soon. She leaned closer. Want me to handle this? I shook my head, my eyes locked on Serena, filled with such cold disappointment that it froze her in place. Victor, you have some nerve, my father barked. Bringing these strangers into my home to make trouble. You're not welcome. As of today, I, Arthur Song, have no son. Good. Serena screamed. We don't have a father like you either. Laura and Isaac remained silent, but their expressions said enough. The guests murmured and whispered, pointing. I raised a hand to stop Claire and Talia, then turned to face the entire assembly, this family of vipers. If I hadn't left school to work, the Song family would have gone bankrupt. What's so-called prestigious scholarly family? What's studies abroad, for Hugo? If I hadn't supported Bianca through endless indulgences and sacrifices, no investor would have given her that first deal. And these 3 children, I had poured my heart into raising them, and now, I was a supposed embarrassment to be erased. I laughed, a hollow, cold sound. Fine. I am no longer your father. Or your son. I'll have the disownment papers sent over, my father muttered. Let's go, I said. Claire stepped forward, her voice deceptively calm. Since my father is no longer welcome here, I assume you won't need these gifts. She nodded to her assistant, who had just arrived. Take them away. How dare you? Serena shrieked. Those gifts are from CO Claire, Star Leo, and my professor, from my grandfather. Are you trying to make enemies? The Clarity Group is AuraCorp's newest partner. Leo is my investor's golden boy. And I'm Dr. Thorne's star protege at Stanford. Claire and Talia exchanged a glance. A quiet, knowing smile passed between them. They looked at me. I nodded slightly. You're saying, Claire asked sweetly but with an edge, turning toward Laura, that Claire is your business partner? That's right, Laura said proudly, unaware of the danger. The name Clarity Group had always been a mark of wealth and influence. Claire's smile hardened, turning icy. Not anymore. She pulled out her phone and made a brief, quiet call. And who exactly are you? Laura asked, suddenly unsettled by the calm authority radiating from the woman. She had assumed Claire was just some mid-level manager. Associated with Victor Song? How influential could she really be? Probably just a kept woman. Laura made a mental note to ruin her career once this was over. Then her phone rang, and the color drained from her face. What do you mean the Clarity Group is ending the partnership? Don't panic, Laura. Serena urged, trying to salvage the situation. It must be a misunderstanding. Just handle your business. She turned to Talia, sizing her up. You're just a college student, little sister, she said, voice dripping with superiority. I'm sure, as an educated person, you can recognize what a pathetic, hopeless man this one is, Talia replied coldly. Oh really? Talia's eyes flicked to the Stanford pin on Serena's blazer. You're a Stanford student? Serena's chest puffed with pride. She had worn the pin deliberately to show off. Ever heard of Dr. Talia Thorne? I'm about to become her official protege. With her influence, she could ruin your future with a single call. Talia smiled slowly, a cold, deliberate smile. I wasn't aware I had a protege. She exchanged a knowing glance with Claire and discreetly pulled out her phone. Like father, like daughters, someone whispered among the guests. Is this entire family delusional? That girl must be insane, another murmured. Then Serena's phone rang. Moments later, she sank to her knees. What do you mean my research group application was rejected? Hugo froze. Serena, what's happening? Dad, the admissions office canceled my application. They told me to pack up and leave the university. Quick, ask your mentor. Didn't he promise to secure your spot if you paid? Hugo stopped, realizing he had spoken too soon. Talia's sweet smile deepened, deceptively calm. No need to ask. Professor Evans was encouraged to retire early. You're lying. Serena's eyes were red with panic. My mentor is coming to the party later. Her voice trailed off as fear sank in. Meanwhile, Isaac raised his phone, smirking. Everyone, check my live stream. These people crashed Grandpa's party and tried to steal our gifts. They're just street-level thugs. People like this should be cancelled. But minutes later, the stream was taken down. Isaac, confident in his influencer status, assumed he could spin the story and circulate photos of Claire and Talia. The rich despised public exposure, and he thought he could control it. I watched, fury simmering. Isaac was attempting to weaponize social media against Claire and Talia. But against true power, his influence was nothing more than background noise. Isaac sneered. So what if you have connections and education, Victor? You can't compete with me. My investor is Leo. Lionheart Media made me. A smooth voice cut through the tension from the doorway. As of this moment, Lionheart Media is terminating your contract. Isaac froze. I've already had my PR team clarify your little smear campaign. If I'm correct, what's waiting for you is a nationwide blacklist. Leo stepped into the room, smiling like a star but with icy eyes. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It was Leo, the real Leo. For the first time that day, the guests looked thrilled rather than shocked. Dad, Leo said, walking straight toward me. Sorry I'm late. Paparazzi were following me, and Claire's assistant had to bring me here. Claire, who had just returned, noticed her assistant and stiffened. Miss Claire, you're here. Leo called, hurrying over. Is something wrong, Miss Claire? Laura asked, her voice quivering. We just finalized the partnership. Why terminate it now? The assistant answered without hesitation. Miss Claire, I already had the items delivered to your father as you requested. The shift in the room's energy was immediate. Even Laura, arrogant as she was, now realized exactly who she was dealing with. Claire? She whispered, stumbling backward. Serena, watching her siblings' world unravel, frantically scanned the room. Then she spotted him, a stooped figure making his way through the crowd. Her supposed savior, Professor Evans. Over here, she cried. Of course. Talia had been bluffing. Her research group was state-backed. No matter how influential Claire or Leo were, government-funded programs were untouchable. He would fix everything. The first thing Professor Evans did upon reaching her was lift his cane and lightly tap her shoulder. Who are you calling your professor? He wheezed, struggling to catch his breath. He turned to Talia, voice trembling. Dr. Thorne. There must be some mistake. Please, give me another chance. This project, it's everything to me. You can't transfer me now. Serena froze, horrified. Her powerful, esteemed mentor was groveling before a girl her own age. And with that, the last of her illusions shattered. The young woman standing before her was the legendary prodigy, the youngest professor in Stanford's history. In that moment, everything snapped into place. The crowd recognized Leo. The eldest Song's son was not a failure. They hadn't polished a diamond. They had mistaken it for a pebble. Hugo's eyes darted to me, desperation clear. Brother, I know you don't like me, but we're family, he said, forcing a smile. They're just kids. If you're upset, take it out on me, he added, glancing at my children. It's all a misunderstanding. It's cold outside, he continued. Come in, everyone. Let's rest and celebrate now that my brother is home. Yes, Dad, it's all just a misunderstanding, Laura and Isaac echoed nervously. My father's gaze lingered on the pile of gifts, flicking between greed and regret. You've been gone so long, your mother misses you. Have dinner with us. I let out a cold laugh. Since Mr. Song disowned me, I suppose these gifts aren't for him, I said. As for dinner, enjoy it without me. What surprised me most was Bianca's sudden attempt at reconciliation. Her eyes held greed, and something else I couldn't name. I know I wronged you. You've suffered so much, she began. I want to make it right. Whatever you want in return, it's yours. I only smiled, already reading her intentions. Before she could continue, Hugo surged forward, wild and desperate. Brother, I raised this family. I raised your children. Even if I wasn't perfect, I tried. You resent me for taking your place, I know. But Mom, Dad, the children, they're innocent. Why destroy them? They're your own blood. I looked at him calmly, a mocking smile touching my lips. Hugo, are you certain? Certain you raised my children? Certain they're even mine? A collective gasp rippled through the room. Dad, what are you saying? Laura whispered, pale as a ghost. Claire, Leo, and Talia exchanged sharp glances. I thought we agreed not to tell him, Talia murmured. It wasn't us, Leo replied. He's been going through old photos for days. I thought he was just being nostalgic. Irony twisted in my gut. If Talia hadn't insisted on a full checkup months ago, I'd never have discovered it. Never realized Bianca had arranged for me to be sterilized years ago. I had been physically incapable of fathering children. Pulling on that thread unraveled everything. I had come today intending to quietly honor my final duty to my parents and leave with dignity. Silence was no longer an option. My father stepped forward. Victor, have you lost your mind? Say one more thing like that and I'll... Victor, how can you claim they're not yours? My mother cried. On your wedding night, you collapsed from appendicitis, and Bianca rushed you to the hospital. They are the fruit of your love. I faced them, voice cold and void of warmth. Am I really speaking nonsense, Mom? You know better than anyone. That surgery, it wasn't appendicitis, was it? You arranged it. You made me half a man. You never saw me as a son. I was merely a tool to prop up Hugo. You passed off Hugo and Bianca's children as mine, counting on the fact that by the time the truth surfaced, I'd be too old and broken to retaliate. To protect Hugo, you stole everything from me. My manhood. My right to be a father. While I labored endlessly for your approval, Hugo and Bianca carried on in secret. Tell me, Dad, how can your favoritism run so deep? The room erupted in outrage. All eyes turned toward Hugo and my parents, heavy with judgment. My real children, Claire, Leo, and Talia, looked at me with pain. They hadn't wanted this confrontation to happen this way. Impossible. You're lying. How could you not be my father? Serena cried. If you weren't, then why did you care for me all those years? Yes, what a tragedy, I said, my voice cold as ice. To raise 3 vipers, only to discover they were never mine. The room went silent. Serena, Laura, and Isaac exchanged stunned, horrified looks. No wonder. Hugo always seemed so perfect, Laura whispered. So Victor was the one who got deceived the entire time. This family is revolting. Serena sobbed. No, we can't be illegitimate. Then, almost inaudibly, she added, so that's why you were always kind to me, you're our real father? Her voice broke again. No, I don't want it. I don't want you to be our father. Hugo's face turned pale. How amusing, I said. A moment ago, you were one big happy family. What changed? You got what you wanted. Hugo is your father. Be content. Looking at them, I felt only disappointment. I had come to say goodbye, but the truth had spoken louder than any farewell. If it weren't for my real children standing by me, I would have been trampled once more today. This bloodline, this family, meant nothing. I turned and walked away. Behind me, chaos erupted. Laura, Isaac, and Serena turned on Hugo. If you hadn't lied, we wouldn't have lost him. You destroyed everything. The tables had turned. I was no longer the family disgrace. Hugo was. From that day forward, he became a joke in their social circle. On the drive home, my children were quiet. They knew the truth but didn't want to spoil the day with sorrow. I was no longer Victor who longed for my family's approval. Blood alone was not enough. Soon after, the Song and White families were ousted from high society. Without the Clarity Group, they had nothing. Isaac was blacklisted in entertainment. Serena was permanently barred from academia. Bianca filed for divorce, sending gift after gift, begging forgiveness, but the blame fell squarely on Hugo. My parents came next, frail and trembling, trying to pull at my heart. But when I revealed the DNA results, public opinion turned against them. Dad, I said firmly, this is the last time I'll call you that. There's nothing left between us. My children dug even deeper, uncovering something I had never known. I wasn't even my mother's biological son. Her younger sister had given me away after her own death. Once Hugo was born, I became an afterthought. I had more than repaid my debt. I never saw them again. Years later, news reached me. Hugo, ruined by scandal and betrayal, burned down the family estate. He and Bianca perished in the fire, leaving Lara, Isaac, and Serena alone, but grown and facing the consequences of their own choices. I heard the news while pruning roses in my garden, the sunlight warming my back. Laughter and life filled the yard. Claire had risen to the top of the business world. Leo had built a thriving media empire. Talia led groundbreaking national research. Together we were happy. I had found a partner to walk beside me for life. Toddlers tumbled around, babbling and laughing, and my heart softened. Grandma, Grandpa, have a cookie, one of them chirped, holding out a treat. Looking up at the new spring buds, I smiled. The long, harsh winter was finally over. The past had fallen like dead leaves, and from the soil of pain and betrayal, something new had blossomed. A future,